Okay, so welcome. This is going to be a game of Command Ops 2. If you don't know this game, it's a grand tactical slash operational scale, I guess you can call it simulation of World War II. And this time I'm going to play a scenario, and I'll be playing, let's see, I think it was, yeah. I'm going to play Molenhoek, if I pronounce this correctly, Counter Attack, which is part of the module Highway to the Reich scenarios. This module features the Allied operations Market Garden. And I'll be playing as the Axis, the 1st Fallschirmjäger Army, with realistic order delay, historical weather, and everything else will be historical or normal. Initially I planned to come up with a thorough tutorial on this game. However, I have to say that this is quite a lot of work, and also there are some game mechanisms that I don't really understand myself, and I didn't get any real answers on the Panthers Games forum either, so this tutorial project will be put on hold. But I thought I could show you a single small game here, and there's nothing fancy to it. I'm not going to make great tactical plans, just play. Okay, so the overall situation is that, let me see again, we have the and they can only reach this strategically vital city via this bridge here. And my task is to launch an attack, a counter-attack, to deny the crossing here to the Allied forces. So let's first take a look at our objectives. We can do so by bringing up the Objectives tab, and as we can see, our first objective is naturally to destroy enemy units. If we manage to destroy 29% of the enemy's units, then we get awarded 50 victory points. If we only manage to destroy less, then we are awarded fewer victory points proportionally. Okay, so apart from this objective, we also have several territorial objectives, if you will. So there are major objectives which are worth 50 points. This would be Molenhoek here, Moog, Popenberg, and Groesbeek here. So these 4 objectives are worth 50 points each. And how do we get these points? Well, there are points for occupation and for completion. So to control an objective, we need to keep this area here clear of enemy units and have a unit within that radius ourselves. And as long as we control an objective within its active time, so for example Molenhoek is active from day 1, 5 o'clock, which is basically right now, so from the start, to day 3, 17 o'clock, which is the end of the scenario. So during this time the objective is active, and if we control the objective while it is active, we are awarded occupation points. The longer we hold it, the more occupation points we get, until we reach the upper threshold here, which is 40 points. So I don't know exactly how fast victory points are ticking up when you control the objective, but you get the idea. And if we hold the objective at the end of its active time, so in this scenario the objectives are all active throughout the whole scenario. So if we hold these objectives at the end of the scenario, we are awarded the completion points. In this case 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points. Okay, the other 4 objectives, Ostberg, Riedhorst, Kijkberg and DZN, whatever that means, they basically work in the same way, but they are worth fewer victory points. 10-10, 20-0, so we don't need to control this objective at the end of the scenario. 20-0 again and 20-0. Okay. Okay, so now that we know what our objectives are, we can take a closer look at our troops. This is going to be a bit complicated because we have lots of little icons here, as you can see. So I suggest to take a look at the order of battle. And here we can see that our highest ranking unit on the map is the division headquarter of the 406th Infantry Division. And you can click on the History tab to get some additional information. You can also see that it is commanded by Generalleutnant Scherbening, so you can dig deeper here if you're really interested. And before we take a close look at our divisional assets, let's consider the subordinate units. So the first subordinate unit is the Kampfgruppe Hermann, which is something similar to a regiment. So this Kampfgruppe Hermann also comes with regimental assets, and it has subordinate units itself. So in this case, the 1st Battalion, Kampfgruppe Hermann, which is located up here. Oops. Okay, so this battalion consists of 3 infantry companies plus a mortar platoon. The 2nd Battalion, Kampfgruppe Hermann, is structured similarly. It consists of 3 infantry platoons plus 2 mortar platoons. In this case, I think so this mortar platoon is 8 centimeters, 8 centimeters mortars, and the other one has 12 centimeter mortars, so one is heavier than the other. Okay. So basically we have 2 infantry battalions plus mortar, organic mortar support. There's also, let me see, yes, the regimental assets are a light flag battery and an infantry howitzer company. Okay, so we'll take a closer look later on here. And the 2nd subordinate unit of the 406th Infantry Division is Kampfgruppe Hermann. This is also something similar to a regiment, and it also consists of 2 subordinate units. The 1st subordinate unit is Kampfgruppe Göbel, which consists of quite a lot of units. So we have 1st Infantry Company, 2nd Infantry Company, 3rd Infantry Company, an engineer company, and then we have 2 mortar platoons. It's again 1 light and 1 medium mortar platoon, and it also comes with an infantry howitzer company plus an assault gun company. Again, we will take a closer look when we are planning the task for the individual battalions and companies. And the 2nd subordinate unit of Kampfgruppe Hermann is the 1st Battalion of Kampfgruppe Hermann, As the blue color indicates, this is a parachute battalion, Fallschirmjäger battalion, which is of better quality than all the other battalions. And this consists of 3 infantry companies and a mortar platoon. The regimental assets are a heavy mortar company, light flak platoon, and a company of self-propelled light flak. Whatever that is, we will take a closer look later on. Okay, so these are the subordinate units of the divisional headquarter. We have Kampfgruppe Reich here with the headquarter and 2 battalions, and in the south we have Kampfgruppe Hermann, which consists of a headquarter and 2 battalions, one of which is a parachute battalion of higher quality. And this here is the divisional headquarter, so to speak. And regarding divisional assets, we have the base. So this is the depot supply base for this infantry division. You can look up, we have 60 horse-drawn wagons, 9 Kraftomnibusse. These would be some kind of trucks, as you can see here. And well, yes, you get the overall idea. What might be important is to know where your supply comes from. So the way it works is that all the units are supplied by this base, so you need to keep roads clear. However, the base also gets supply from off map, so to speak, and you can see where your supply enters the map by clicking on, let me see, where is it? Supply, and this shows you the supply entry point, SEP. So if you move your base, you need to make sure that the path between that supply entry point and your base, your actual base unit, is clear. Okay. Alright, before we start to do some actual planning, we also need to consider that the scenario will last for 3 full days. So now we have day 1, 5 o'clock, and the scenario will end on day 3, 17 o'clock. Okay, and also we will be getting reinforcements starting on day 2 at dawn. Okay, so all of these reinforcements will arrive on day 2 between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning, and this shows you exactly where they, if you click on them, the game shows you where they will be coming up, where they will be entering the map. In this case they are all, except this one here, all our reinforcements will be arriving from the south. Okay, and if you want more details about the units you will be receiving, you can have them. You simply need to change or switch to your order of battle setting to organic structure. And now here the structure will also show you units you will be receiving as reinforcements. You can see that they come in a different color. For example, the Kampfgruppe Levin, 7 units, you will see that it is listed here, and all the 7 units are also listed. So it will be 1 headquarter unit, 3 infantry companies. You can see all the details here in the force tab, plus mortar platoons and self-propelled light flak company. Okay, so you can see what kind of reinforcements you'll be receiving. Okay, so let's start to plan this operation. Our task is to push east and delay the enemy here around Molenhoek and Moog as long as possible. Now, I took a closer look at my forces, and one problem that I have is that I have really nothing at all to deal with tanks. Okay, I don't really know how many tanks, if and how many tanks the enemy will bring, but I think this could be a real issue. Let's consider my anti-tank capability. The infantry companies, they do have some anti-tank weapons. So I've got my Panzerfaust and some Panzerschreck. However, on this operational scale, you will really see that this is really a limited asset, mainly because of its range. So you can see, if you bring up the performance tab of the Panzerschreck, you can see here anti-armor. The effective range is 200 meters. Remember that 1 square here is 1 square kilometer. So, for example, if we take this second company here, this would be 200 meters, this range, okay? So, it's not really effective in denying progress or stopping the advance of a tank unit, okay? So the infantry companies are not really equipped well against tanks, and they all lack organic anti-tank guns. So I've looked through all through all my assets here. So these are the Fallschirmjäger companies. They also have Panzerschreck and Panzerfaust, but nothing like an AT gun or so. I do have some Stummers, so the 7.5 centimeter Stummers. Let's see their performance. They do have an anti-armor capability, so they can penetrate 51 millimeters at their effective range of 100 meters. Okay, and at their maximum range at 2.5 kilometers they can still penetrate 28 millimeters of armor. The problem with this is, apart from the mediocre armor penetration, that I only have 3 of these guns and also they are really lightly armored themselves, so they have a frontal armor of 12 millimeters. You don't really want to engage tanks with them. Yeah. Now this leaves me only with some flak, and let me see. I have a heavy flak battery here, which consists of 6 88 flaks, and these have a really good penetration at long ranges of 3 kilometers. So at 3 kilometers they can still penetrate 73 millimeters of armor. To give you an idea, I can bring up the anti-armor range rings. This range here is the maximum and at the same time effective range of 3 kilometers. Okay, now let's consider our options. As I've already mentioned, my forces lack anti-tank capability, and this lack of anti-tank capability makes holding Molenhoek a very risky affair, I think, because the terrain around Molenhoek is all open. Okay, there's no terrain that would enable my infantry to pull off a defense against tanks. Now, even if I manage to put up a company here in the village itself, this company can then still be shelled heavily by tanks, which can stay at safe distances. Also, tanks can easily bypass Molenhoek and penetrate south thereby cutting off any infantries positioned in Molenhoek from its supply. Also, if we take a look at the victory objective radius here, we can see that simply having infantry in this village will not be enough to claim victory points for the village. So if I have an infantry company here and the enemy rolls up his tanks here, which is still safe out of Panzerschreck range, then I will not be awarded any victory points. I don't know, however, if my opponent has the same objectives. So maybe by putting up some troops here I can deny victory points to my enemy. So this will be something to consider. Moog, on the other hand, is perhaps a bit easier to defend because of this narrow point here at the nursery. So the nursery is factory terrain, which offers very good cover from direct fire, so tank fire. And also there are woods very close by, and we can check that. So this is Panzerschreck range if I position some infantry at the edge of the wood or from the nursery. So two companies could easily, or could try, easily is another matter, could try to block off this narrow position here so that tanks cannot penetrate south. And indeed this is necessary if I want to get victory points for Moog, if you take a look at the objective radius. Also, this position here could be reinforced or backed up by further positions here in the village of Moog. Okay. For this you need to keep in mind that tanks or any motorized units cannot enter woods unless they use a path or a road. Okay, so this position is will prove vital, I think, for my efforts. Something to consider is that the wood here offers very good protection against direct fire, but makes area fire, which basically means artillery bombardments, very effective. This is because the game simulates tree bursts. So artillery shells would hit the trees, and there would be lots of shrapnel and splinters of tree trunks raining down on troops positioned here from above. So the effectiveness of artillery is increased if the target is positioned in woods. Therefore, I think it will be vital to dig in troops here as fast as possible. If you keep units stationary for some time, depending on their experience, I think, and some other soft factors, they start to dig in. Okay, and this will greatly increase their protection, especially from artillery fire. And this means that I want to reach this point as fast as possible, so that when the enemy counterattack arrives, my troops will already be dug in and have fortified this position here. If they have not dug in time, they might get beaten by artillery. Okay, so let's take a look at the north and consider our anti-tank options. So the main problem here is that there is a road or a path leading through the woods, and this road can be used by tanks. If you take a look, you can see that motorized units, so tanks, can move through here with using 70% of their movement speed. Also, there is a rail running through here, which can also be used by motorized units. So we have two movement lanes for tanks here, and also, and this is very dangerous because tanks could then flank our position here. They might use this path here to move to the south and gain more options for maneuver. So from here they can go north, they can go south, they can go southwest. So I really need to block off that junction here. Okay. So fortunately, even though tanks might use these roads are also natural bottlenecks. So any tank that wants to go through here will be engaged by my infantry within Panzerschreck range. So unlike in the open, where tanks can stay away and simply shell my infantry with AG rounds, tanks in the woods will need to engage at very close distances at which they don't really like to engage. Okay, so let's sum up my anti-tank plan. I need to stop any movement along these two roads and railroad. For this I will set up ambush positions here and here. So it's important not to position your infantry units too close to the edge of the wood, because units can see into the wood for about, I think, for a distance of 100 meters or so. So we want to have some distance to the edge of the wood. And we also want to block off the enemy armor here. Okay. There's no way they can penetrate anywhere else. So this is wood, this is blocked off, and this is also wood, which is blocked off. Another point to consider is that enemy armor might show up here. So massing units here might not be a great idea, okay? So I need to keep that in mind. Now, considering my anti-tank positions, I realized that all the objectives, except for Molenhoek, are within my controlled area. So this sounds like a very good plan then. What I want to do is push through to establish my anti-tank positions as fast as possible, and then deal with all the units that contest the objectives behind my hypothetical line of defense. Phase 1 is push through to hold and prepare this line here, especially against armor. And then, when this line is established, I will concentrate on taking control of all the objectives. And hopefully this line will also serve to cut off the enemy from his supply lines. So we can expect the enemy supply base to be somewhere along the highway, perhaps somewhere in this area. Don't really expect it to be located in the woods, because this would be too dangerous. And so if I manage to keep the enemy at bay here, all the enemy reinforcements, while taking control of all the objectives here, I think I have a good chance to win. It's also important to hold the wood here against enemy infantry. So I must not concentrate fully on these anti-armor positions here, but I also need to put up some infantry here to make sure that none of the enemy's reinforcements will penetrate into my zone and continue to contest the objectives. Okay, so now that we've got some basic idea how we'll be going to do this, we can start to assign individual tasks to our units. Generally speaking, I want to use my initial troops, so all 4 battalions, to set up the defensive line here. I don't want my initial units to contest the actual objectives. I just want to make them push through here as fast as possible. Okay. Something along this idea. And start to dig in here and hold and defend this area. Contesting the actual objective areas will be the task of our reinforcements, which will be arriving here from the south. Okay, and I want to have our best unit hold the most important point, and the point which will receive most enemy attention, and this is a nursery bottleneck. So I want Kampfgruppe or Battalion Hermann to move up here and take position here at the nursery, at the wood here, and at the village of Moog. The Göber Kampfgruppe will perhaps also advance here and support the attack of Kampfgruppe Hermann, but then will proceed to take up positions in the wood here. Okay. The heavier support assets, however, so we have some infantry, some assault guns here, I think, might be detached and attached to Hermann and be used in some useful way here around the nursery. Okay, so perhaps here the Reich troops will simply attack into the woods and start to set up a defensive perimeter here against armor and here against infantry. Okay, so this is the basic idea of the attack. Okay, so let's start with the Kampfgruppe Göber. We want to attack along the highway and then move up to take up positions here. Our information on the enemy dispositions report that we have an enemy infantry company here at Riedhorst, but the reliability of this sighting is vague, so it might be something different, some kind of infantry here. Same is true for this concentration here in the woods, so there might be some enemy concentration of infantry in these woods. However, that is not really of great concern to us. We'll simply try to bypass and use the highway here. So the unit will form up here, first company, and then attack all the way through to here.
We want to make an attack, to run a coordinated attack with second company, even though it's risky to launch a coordinated attack that runs over more than a kilometer, but let's try. So this unit will form up here, which will take about half an hour, given that we have no order to lane right now. Okay, so let's make this 5:30. We want to engage with maximum aggro. Okay, I'll make this to default. Okay, and the second company will join this attack and form the left wing of it. We also want it to start the attack at the very same time as company 1. Okay, so the first two companies will attack. The third company, I want it to move rather than attack, so we'll use a road column along the highway.
All the indirect fire assets have a different area of saturation. So these heavier mortars have a larger target area than the smaller mortars. So this is correct and realistic. So for now, these assault guns stay in reserve. And when you have a unit doing nothing for some time and there's no enemy nearby, it's safe to give them a rest order so that it will not build up any more fatigue, or might perhaps even recover some strength here. The 1st Battalion of Kampfgruppe Hermann will attack here. You always want to have a forming up point that is safe from enemy fire. So let's take a look here. Maybe there's some dead space here. Alright, this looks okay. So if the enemy stays at the edge of the wood, then he has no real line of sight into that valley here because of the slope. So this is dead space, which is a good space for forming up for the attack. Now what I've done here is not that clever perhaps, because all 3 companies will be bunching up on this spot here, which will naturally provide an excellent target for enemy artillery. So we'll move it slightly. Okay, make it less dangerous.
Now the only battalion left is the 1st Battalion. There seems to be more enemy resistance here. We have an engineer company, a heavy machine gun company, and another heavy machine gun company here. But all these sightings are really vague, so it's not reliable information. However, we might need to concentrate more artillery here. So first plan the attacks.
And then it's interesting to note that these 88 flags can actually be used to deliver indirect fire. So this 88 flag can be treated like artillery. It can support our attack here. Alright, so all the orders are given, and as it is common for a command up scenario, there's no orders delay at the start of the game. So usually if you issue a command, a new task, a new order to a unit, it will take quite a lot of time for the unit to start acting upon that order. Usually it takes about, for a company, it might take about 30 minutes of in-game time. Okay, so but now at the start of the scenario, all orders are carried out immediately. Okay, so now we are ready to go.
Do you copy me? Over. Do you copy me? Over.
So you can see how our attacking companies are already forming up at their
Do you copy me?
designed locations. The mortars are also moving up to get into supporting distance. And let's switch the intelligence filter to current.
Do you copy me? Copy me? Over.
So now these units that are the enemy units that are shown now are really recent sightings. You can see that sighting age is current. All these empty signs here, symbols, they stand for units that had been spotted some time ago.
Do you copy me? Over. Do you copy me?
Okay, so what you can see now is that the mortar barrage has started. It was set to 530, 528, and is now 529. So yeah, all our barrages for the attacks at 530 are now taking place. This is the heavy artillery regiment battalion firing here on suspected enemy positions to cover the advance of our companies. So now the sound indicates us that we have some small arms fire, and as we can see here, our first company, which is leading the attack on the right flank and which is advancing in line, I think, has engaged the enemy unit here. We now have a good reliability, and it turned out that this is a parachute infantry company. About 190 men, which is, however, right now under fire of our two mortar platoons here, and therefore is rather unlikely to fire back at us, which is really important because our unit is moving and is therefore very vulnerable. It has no cover. So on the attack, artillery support is essential, because if a unit is under artillery fire, its suppression bar will go up, and this decreases the chance for the unit to fire and cause casualties on the enemy and force him to retreat. Second company is engaging as well. Okay. And so now you can see that the enemy company is already retreating and might have lost quite a lot of men here. However, it looks as if the enemy artillery is setting in too. So you can see we are under artillery fire. We will now shift our own fire further ahead so that we don't hit our own troops, to keep up pressure on this company here. And let's take a look at the north. Okay, so this report is still true. But our artillery is spot on, so this should go well. Okay, so everything seems fine except for this enemy artillery. Yes, so we're now, the red lamp tells us that we are suffering first casualties. And things are made even worse by the fact that we are positioned in the wood. Sorry. One tip, if you want to switch or adjust your artillery markers, you can simply click on FS for fire support. This brings up all the indirect fire assets. So if you want to quickly check that they are on the mark, you can use that. This is looking good. The enemy is retreating. Oh! He's returning fire. Second company is pressing on, pushing further ahead. And the enemy artillery barrage has already stopped. So apparently there's nothing here. Okay, so this infantry company has checked our second Reich company here. Okay, so now it is... Take a look. I've forgotten when the attack here starts, but we will see. Okay, so short pause. The second company of Reich has engaged a parachute infantry company and has retreated a bit. And as it turned out, there is something here as well. So H company of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment. So there are quite a lot of enemies here, and I might continue to concentrate my artillery on them here. This attack is progressing very well, and here it's okay, I think. First company has suffered some casualties due to artillery fire, but the enemy is on the retreat. So let's concentrate our artillery here on suspected enemy concentrations in this wood here. And the first company is now in the process of retreat recovery, so it's reorganizing. And this leaves second company alone on its assault. So this is a bit of command friction going on here, and the attack is not very coordinated, but I hope that our artillery support will keep the attack running. Everything is fine here, so I don't really need to do a lot except adjusting the artillery fires. And I can also bring up light mortars already. And here I need to set new artillery targets. So this might be a bit risky because this heavier artillery battalion here has quite a large area of saturation. So it cannot really fire in between our two companies here because the risk of hitting friendlies is too great. So I could set it here, but it would still not fire because there are friendlies in the way. So I will keep that on the other company here, or perhaps rather here. Okay, everything else is going according to plan. Might start the bombardment here as well, because the 1st Battalion of Kampfgruppe Hermann will be attacking soon, if I'm not mistaken. short note because you see that this unit here is moving really fast. This is just the game telling us that the information on enemy positions is updated. So usually if you see a unit moving that fast, it does not mean that it's actually moving that fast, but that you had reports about it at some other locations, and now the actual position of the unit is revealed, so that the unit moves fast from its former sighting position to its actual position. Now this is also interesting because we have a anti-tank gun company here. So 8 57mm anti-tank guns. Okay, so now I think this is a good time to conclude this first phase. Our initial push westwards has been quite successful. There was no major enemy resistance in the area. There are still pockets of enemy units in the woods here, but this is according to plan. As I've said, I want to bypass them and first establish the defensive line here. So everything is really going according to plan. The parachute infantry battalion here has made contact with this anti-tank gun company, which might prove kind of tricky. But right now I'm keeping it suppressed with artillery fire, but I really need to drive it off here, okay? Because I want to dig in here. Okay, and here in the north we have minor enemy units, really. Mortar platoons have obviously pushed through the defensive line of this battalion here and reached its support assets, where some parts of it are here in the north. So nothing of real concern. Okay, so in the next part we'll be designing or putting up our defenses to block the units here and see what the enemy will bring against us. Okay, cheers.